Great organizer. This is the only event that I see that there's almost 90% of the crowd still around. I think thanks to iPhone 14. Right. So that makes me, makes it easier for me to do a poll. I think before we actually go into the topic itself, I would like to thank the last panel that talks about digital transformation because it actually ushered into my topic very well. So I thank them. And I wrote down some notes, to refer to them, some of the points that they highlighted. But before that, maybe I just want to get the understanding of, in this group here, how many of you guys actually use AI in some form in your business? Maybe just a show of hands. Just a show of hands, Wow, 30%? Okay, we are not there yet, although we claim to be, an AI hub. Again, I'm very honored to be in this session. I think we have a lot of like-minded individuals. But before that, I'd like to basically share a little bit about the association that I represent. But of course, this is the agenda, as mentioned by the MC. So I'm today representing the non-profit association in Singapore. This association has established since 1988, and I'm very honored to be running this association. We have been traditionally an enterprise risk professionals, and when I took over the leadership, I opened up this association to look at risk not just at the enterprise level, but into the SMB, into the startup ecosystem. Right, and that's the reason why you could see one of our taglines is everyone is a risk manager. We have a risk question just now on ethics. I'd love to answer that later as well. And we lead and promote risk management, the practice and the discipline. I think early on, Miss Patricia talks about habits. I love that because in risk management, we talk about practicing risk as a habit. It is not a folder of documents sitting in somewhere. Neither is it just using systems and processes. It needs the human involved, right, together with the machine. And of course, I'm continuously creating chapters. So if there's anyone in this group who likes to work with my association, please reach out to me. I open out to everyone. So what's the current state of business today? I think a lot of the speaker has spoken. We have statistics that support, right, that emerging threats in today's context has increased since, pre-COVID, right? And we also have observed that there's something that I would like to bring out to everyone that you might not be aware of, because we have been talking about humans. Humans being a threat. Humans being a threat. How about non-humans? All right, so I pause there. So do keep up with some of my notes. I know there's 20 minutes. I have an hour sessions, hour of notes, but I love to share more. But what do I mean by non-machine? Later on, I will share a little bit more. So again, the potential contribution to the global economy of AI is actually increasing. At the same time, the attack surfaces has increased as well. And this is driven by a lot of non-machine credentials, or what we call secrets. And these are things that are invisible to us because they are running, on-premise. For some of our government agencies here, it could be a lift and shift when you're doing a digital transformation. There's a lot of humans, privilege that has been involved, right, in the lift and shift. And finally, when we talk about cloud, the using of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a services, all this has non-human risk, or what we call the machine risk, right? So with that, I actually like to show you guys a timeline, a chart over here, right? So digital transformation, cloud migration is still happening today, right? We talk about a lot of DevOps reshaping. Now, we talk a lot about DevSecOps, right? The security aspects of DevOps. And with COVID, right, because of all of us working remotely, it has increased that sort of opportunity, right, for the perpetrators to look at how they can actually innovate the way they attack. Now, I'd like to put out these two words, right, these two phrases. Technology has changed, right, but the way attacks has not. Think about WannaCry, right? Back then, it was a very old method. There was a solution for it. Guess what? It was reused in a different manner, right? So again, remember, technology may have changed, right? But certain way of conducting the attacks has not. So be very vigilant about that. Of course, with that, new attack vectors has appeared. More sophisticated attackers has come into this cyber warfare that today we are engaging, right? Imagine what our friend from NTUC has shared earlier on. That itself is an information being heard by perhaps perpetrators in this room. I always like to adopt the mindset of assume breach, zero trust. And that's the reason why I make that statement. I know you guys are good guys, right? But there's always a point where human turns into something else because of certain situations and circumstances. So as always, I think as an enterprise, right, as a non-profit association, we continuously advocate the fact that it's not that you don't trust people, you don't like that person, but it's around protecting you, your business, your family, the community, and the nation at wide, right? So this is for humanity. So with that, actually, there are new vectors that are formed. Ransomware continue to be some of the most popular way of holding you, right? And actually creating that fear, right? One of the critical 7 sins that we have been exposed to. Of course, it's very informative. I really hope to share more, right? I'm not trying to beautify things, right? I'd like to share some statistics here. As you can see, cyber threat has increased tremendously, right? There's a lot of attacks that actually sometimes are not just about creating the sort of monetary damages. What a lot of the actors are probably doing is destroying the reputation that you have built over time. Because to them, that's a lot more valuable intrinsically, right? So again, these are some of the statistics that we have observed. And the cost of the data breach report by IBM Security also have shown an increase as well. Now, the malicious act has continuously created risk to organizations of all sizes. Now, I'd like to share this part about big corporates. We all have the crown jewels built around our castles, right? Our armies, soldiers, etc. Now, guess what? The Trojan concept comes in. We work with a lot of our trusted vendors. We work with a lot of emerging unicorns. They're offering value-added services, unique value proposition. And guess what? That is a vulnerability by itself. And with vulnerability plus a potential event, it creates threat. Right? So this is something that I hope to sort of share with everyone. It is a formula that comes together in various forms. And that is something that is emerging in today's context, right? So I'm not saying that you do not trust your vendors. Sometimes as a big brother, we want to take care of our suppliers, our partners, our ecosystem alliances. Because strategic partners are all typically some of the targets that perpetrators are looking at rather than you. Because why would I want to pierce a stone or a rock, right, when I can actually sift through a bottle of sand, right? So that's something, please take note. Of course, with cybersecurity, what is the most valuable within your vault? The new goal, right? Data, right? We talk about the primarily creation of AI, not just about machine learning. It comes in all sorts of data, your text structure, your unstructured data, your images, your videos. People who are using social media like TikTok, right, or even Instagram. These are potential information that perpetrators can use the same set of technology to innovate new sophisticated attacks, or just simply tease out information that they need for the next attack, right? So again, you notice that in PDPA that was enacted, the government also set out the idea of having you to voluntarily undertake the risk. And this is the part where I would like to share with everyone, and is that risk is not something that you react to, right? That's why we don't have incident reaction, right? We always talk about incident response. We plan, right? We have tabletop exercises, we invest resources, time to do up those things. And with technology, it helps, right? But what I want to really put out to everyone is when you do a voluntary undertaking, right, you're actually doing a proactive approach towards risk management, right? You're basically telling your organization as a leader that you're committed to protecting the employees, the business, and the ecosystem, right? So that's something that I think our government, PDPC, has actually put out a very good initiative, right? So that has been done in October 1st. And of course, we do have people who have gone through difficult times because it is hard to understand all this, and you need experts to help you, consultants to help you. And one of the key outcomes is penalties. As you can see, there are still people that, unfortunately, for example, we talk about DevOps, engineers being engineers, we really care about accuracy. We care about how to deliver the outcome to my bosses. But unfortunately, in some of the cases, if you all can read into PDPC's on examples, engineers tend to find productive way of working, and sometimes they put passwords within the stack of codes, right? And guess what? These are vulnerabilities for perpetrators, right? And imagine if you put your AWS credential in a bunch of codes. That's where things goes loose, right? And these are all access that can be easily obtained by a lot of the perpetrators. Now, with supply chain, we also talk about the entire value chain, not just about, thanks to DHL, I think we talk about supply chain, not just about using the ERP system, but also, right, how is that system being connected, right? How are the APIs being called, right? Because a lot of time is always the hijacking of the in-sessions, right? So how do we ensure that the front end is protected? How do we have a secure session when we are performing our jobs in the cloud or within your premise? Now, bear in mind, insider threat is still the number one threat. I know you guys love your employees. I know employees love your bosses. But it's still the number one insider threat due to various reasons. All right? So again, the Institute of Supply Management talks about 75% of businesses reported supply chain disruption during pandemic. To the perpetrator, this is a fantastic event. It's not a black swan event, right? Not a black swan event to them. This is the event that they have been waiting for. They have been preparing for. They run an organization like all of us as well. So don't forget about all the movies about perpetrators being very poor, sitting in a room, have no money, have no people to help them. Sorry, they are as sophisticated as us these days, right? So just bear in mind, these are things that are happening. And of course, with digital transformation, new vulnerabilities are arising, right? So today, if I'm to run, say, a particular API call, right, I may be using platforms like Zapier. I may be using platforms like MessageBird, right, productivity tools. How are all these calls safe? How can I assure that someone calling this command is my CEO? And how long should I give my CEO or my board members the access to do a certain task? All these are very important factors for us to consider, right, in order for us to ensure a very smooth digital transformation into either the cloud, very few from cloud to on-premise, but there are, right? So that will be in the blockchain world. Interestingly, folks, if you want to know more about, we can talk about that in the future. So I'd like to put out some statistics about emerging threats. Every one human here working in your company, there will be about 45 machine identities. Maybe you can go back and count yourself, right? How many logins, how many systems you have to log in, how many invisible systems that you actually log in but you didn't know because you are using single sign-on. Those are machine identities. And guess what? Any one of these identities gets breached, it's early Christmas for me. All right? So 52 of the employees have access to sensitive system. Now, Privileged access is no longer just IT's problem. I hope there are some non-IT people in this group, or if you are IT, please share with your employees. Because data, personal identifiable data, can be held by any function departments today. So I hope that everyone realized that, right? And the fact that shadow IT happens about 5-8 years ago, the effects is happening now. The outcomes is happening now, right? Because of all this data that is residing in whichever function, that is harnessing it, right? To basically create what I call embedded AI. I think what throughout the 2 days, what you've been hearing are what we call embedded AIs, right? So we embed AI capabilities into some of our regular processes and functions. And that itself is a threat, right? And you just need one event, for the vulnerabilities to be surfaced. And 63% of organizations actually have faced a successful cybersecurity attack due to an identity security related risk or issue. So today I would like to put out another statement. We still need firewall, right? Please don't throw away all your Palo Alto, F5, etc., right, while you have your castle. But I would like to make this message around every single one here, you are an identity. You need to be protected in one way or another because you are the data that perpetrators are looking out for. And that's a message that an organization, be it small, big, right, I think needs to know. Even for non-profit organization, we are very aware about this as well, right? And the last thing is, 54% prefer to adopt a unified control from fewer vendors, right? So complexity in risk reduction is one way, but it may not necessarily be a way where everyone in this room can adopt, because you have to rely on some of your vendors, right, to get things done. So again, prioritize that as your critical system and start to plan a risk management plan around it, right? Privilege is everywhere in this room. Do I need software to actually get access to your identity? No, I don't have to. In fact, while you guys are having lunch, I observed there were some laptops sitting around. Well, gratefully, it was only 1% out of the 100% here, right? But still, if I have access into that device, potentially I could access to many other things, right? So privilege is everywhere. Identities will become a privilege under a certain condition, right? So when HR suddenly been tasked to become the chief executive officer, I think you guys know which company I'm referring to, right? He himself now has the authority to access into certain set of information, while he may not be able to access when he was a CHRO. Can you see that kind of situation can happen today? And that can happen anywhere else. So with that, I hope the initial sharing gives you guys a context around, we always talk about men, people being one of the critical risks, but around us now we have non-machine risk, non-machine identities that we need to secure. And with AI, we want to know whether they are our friends or they are our foes. So very quickly in today's rapid, era, we are facing a lot of threats, as I mentioned. AI creates a lot of attack surfaces. What do I mean by that? Sometimes AI surprises us. And one thing that we learn about ChatGPT is that, it is continuously learning at every single second, even while I'm talking here. Maybe it has been recorded, live streamed somewhere, and someone is using it, right? So this is exactly what I meant. To hardwares like autonomous vehicle, right? Or even some of the drones that is happening, research that is done in China, in Europe, right? Those are collecting data, right, continuously. So I always like to say that AI is organic. And I think early on, Simon Long from CBRE talks about befriend with AI. One of the biggest problem right now, I think, or maybe not a problem, the biggest sort of understanding of this technology is that we are treating AI like a calculator, like a laptop. We have not changed our behavior towards treating this emerging tech. This emerging tech is no longer just like a calculator or laptop where it is static, but now it's a lot more dynamic. Right? Again, I don't drive too deep into that. I hope I trigger some thoughts behind everyone. I love to debate and have an exchange with you guys later on. And I would like to put out these 4 points. It can be a potential friend to us in business as an impact, right? Why are we only thinking about AI at the enterprise level? Are we able to think about what we are doing can bring a certain impact to humanity, right? Which in the past, maybe because we need a lot of humans to do it, it's so difficult. But with this emerging technology, can things be a lot easier? Right? Can this technology now be looking at something different? And how do we govern that? I think we talk about ethics, right? How do we responsibly use AI? I think that itself, when we could answer them, with our respective objectives, we will be able to actually embrace AI less of a technology, but more of a friend, right? As mentioned by Simon. Now, it can be a foe to us, as I mentioned. While we are trying to do good, right? I'm a big advocate of AI for good. There is no doubt there will always be an AI for bad, right? The same set of technology used in a reverse manner is AI for bad, right? So how do we then start, preventing some of this, setting up governance structures, right? Collaborating. By the way, it's not my effort only. It's not your effort only. It's a worldwide effort. It has to be collaborative because attackers don't just choose Singapore to attack. Remember, right? So they may attack you because they want to get access into places like Indonesia, Philippines, China, right? So bear in mind, this is a collaborative effort that we have to work together on. And data may contain biases. Why? Number one rule, we are still the creator of AI, right? So I think these 2 days we have been talking about AI creation. I think the next session we should have conversation around how we use AI. So the create and the use of AI has to be included in the governance framework that you have. And what do you define as bias? What do you define as moral, right or wrong, before we talk about ethics? Because ethics is the how. So if we are not clear about the what, it will be tough. Right, again, integration of AI into technologies, this will increase the attack surfaces as well as misconception of short-term impact. Unfortunately, people are looking at profitability in a different manner. Right, profitability means cut head counts. That's a different way to look at this thing, right? So there's always a top-line solution rather than always at the bottom line, right, when it comes to timing. So how do we embrace some of the threats? Let me quickly move into that. I think these are some of the strategy that I will quickly suggest to all. Keep to your existing activities, but I do encourage everyone now to look at some of the non-machine identities, right? I think that is a handful, right? If you have 1,000 workforce, you're looking at 45,000 approximately identities that you might not have secured, all right? Or you have secured, right? But you have not done certain areas of governance, compliance around it, right? MFA is a good way, right? Again, MFA won't be a good way if we do not have a habit of zero trust, right? Where you may be trying to type your password at MFA, but someone is overlooking you from behind. So all this physical security needs to couple with the other aspects of security. Now, don't forget, auditors are not here to find fault and get you into trouble, right? Auditors are always here to learn from you, right? They are trying to improve these assessments, right? So that they can help to reduce the vulnerability, thereby reducing the threat. Can we reduce the events? Yes, of course we can. But that is a lot harder. Anyone knew that COVID will come, right? So that's one example of very hard to predict, right? So of course, continuous education. I think a lot of our speakers has talked about that. Oops. So this was an example of when your vendors got into trouble, right? And I think this was a public sort of news. So we all know that there was a SolarWinds attack chain that is shown over there. There was a malicious code that was injected into the SolarWinds system. And from there, they could gain access to over 33,000 enterprise customers. Simple. There's no calculus. It was just a waiting game. It was just a waiting game of an event, right, where they have vulnerabilities ready to gain access into the unsecure secrets. In this case, for those who do not know what is secrets, these are what we call non-human identities. And typically, they allow you certain privilege access. Privilege access, again, is access into data that will get you into PDPC troubles. This is more layman, right? So with that, a thorough data protection regulations will really help you to ensure some of the compliance. The way you handle, store, and share information should transform from policy together with systems, right, to help you to automate that, right? So that's one way. Of course, risks are involved as well. Take care of that. Will there be zero risk? No. Anyone who tells you that, report to the police, right? So he's a scammer. So regular review of your privacy policy. I think one of the key things that people mistaken about risk management because it takes so much effort to do. We do one time and we kind of forget and went on to our business as usual. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's a continuous improvement. For our ITU people, right? It is a continuous service improvement. You service that risk that ever change. If risk doesn't change, then it is not a risk, right? So that's one thing that you need to understood, and that requires an entire culture, right? The organization to practice in order for it to happen. Now again, we talk about resiliency. I took a picture earlier on based on our last speaker. It was on risk monitoring because that was really great. For those who have not taken that picture, you should ask from him because they are very crucial matrices or what you call KPIs, right? That you should leverage on, right, to help you to have a more objective analysis. Now, with no analysis, you can't do evaluation. Right? If you do not have a set of risks identified, you can't do analysis and evaluation. And ultimately, you can't do all these three. You can't treat the risk. Oh, no, and everyone say just buy insurance. They'll cover our risk. It doesn't work that way, right? So that's the reason why sometimes, that's where budget went up. Right? People spend a lot more money because that is what the industry are spending, right? But you today have data to help you to access what sort of risk treatment should you be undertaking, right? You can either accept the risk, right? Or you can avoid the risk. You can reduce the risk, or you can transfer the risk. Buying an insurance is just transferring a risk. By the way, when you buy, say, solutions, when you hire someone to do the job, that's another way of transferring the risk, right? But you are aware and you accept that risk. So you use a combination of risk treatment, and all this requires analytics and real-time monitoring data. And with digital transformation, I think, I want to keep it short because we're running out of time. Risk assessment has various types of methods for various industry, banking, healthcare, etc. I think it's really finding the right methodology, right, that is crucial when you're conducting your risk assessment. It's not, hey, my fellow peers is using that, that's why I think it works. It has to be based on the types of data that you have, the kind of processes that you're looking at, right, and the kind of people that are involved. So that's something to summarize that slide. And in conclusion, I think we are facing a lot of ongoing, I would say. I won't say a lot, but with technologies like artificial intelligence, it certainly increased the velocity, right? So I'm not using the word speed, right? I'm using the word velocity because there's a certain direction that we are heading towards, right? So let's make sure that the direction that we are heading towards benefits not just the businesses, but also people at large, right? The humanity, people who are marginally requiring help, right? Why? If they are not given the needed help, perhaps they will join the perpetrators, right? And that's the last thing you want. So we want to be more embracing as we go along. And with that, I just want to share with you guys, this is a book that I'm writing that will be published end of the year. So I'm writing together with Dr. James Ong. I think most of you guys know about him. And we just had a conference at the Shanghai World AI Conference, right? So we actually had a very, very huge turnout, 50,000 square feet. I don't know how many of these room sizes, but it was amazing. So please follow me, continue the conversation today, and thank you.
AI is a friend to empower humanity.